Welcome back. We're here to talk about Saturday evening's Premier League match between Stoke City and Chelsea. Pascal, we'll start with the visitors. We're recording this before the Champions League match in midweek, but last time out, 3-1 defeat to Liverpool.
Yeah, really disappointing for them because they just didn't really rise to the occasion in that match, did they? I know they've had so many poor results this season, but when they hosted Arsenal in that big game, I think it was in September, they really they did rise to the occasion in that one. They were helped with some red cards there, but I really thought they might have just played a lot better than they did against Liverpool, because Liverpool hardly a side high on confidence themselves. I know they've got new Jurgen Klopp's their new manager, but he was still without a win going into that game. They'd had a few quite unconvincing performances, hadn't they? So for Liverpool to dominate possession in that game, they did look more threatening than Chelsea, and especially as Chelsea took the lead in that one as well. Ramirez with that header. So for them to not really push on from that, the goal from Coutinho just before half time was a bit real killer for them, because if they'd gone in, with the 1-0 lead, then they might have done a bit better. But as it was, Coutinho, was a great little sidestep from him, good little finish into the corner as well. So that gave Liverpool a lift, and in the second half they were the better side, really. Liverpool, Benteke came off the bench, really improved the game for them. He scored, Coutinho getting another goal as well. So a really disappointing performance from Chelsea. That's 3 in a row. They've lost in all competitions now, with that penalty shootout defeat to Stoke, obviously, last week as well. So really, really disappointing. Like you mentioned, we're recording this before that Champions League game later tonight, and if they lose that at home to Dynamo Kiev, or even say if they don't win that game, it would just be such a crushing blow, and you wonder if Mourinho would be given more time after that.
Yeah, because all the speculation was that he might be sacked if they lose to Liverpool. That hasn't been the case. There has been more speculation that he would be sacked if they lose to Dynamo Kiev, which appears unlikely given both sides' record, but you never know with Chelsea at the moment. It's not just the results that are so disappointing, it's the performances as well. Just the players. Terry has been, the last few seasons, he's made his career out of being in the right place. In his mind, he's a yard ahead of everyone else, even though he's never had the best pace. But he and Cahill, they just always seem to be a yard behind where they need to be at the moment. They always seem to be diving in to try and make a last-ditch block, and that's resulted in a couple of deflected goals. They got a couple of deflected goals against Liverpool as well, so that just wasn't happening last season. They were always in the right place. Not the case so far this season. And obviously there's the whole circus going on around Mourinho at the moment, aside from just the pure speculation over his future, which is growing in intensity every single passing result. There's everything with Ivo Carneiro that's rumbling on behind the scenes still, all the FA charges, got a one-match stadium ban as well, so it is a circus, a sideshow to what has been going on the field, but ultimately it is a results-based business. And you think, how much longer has Mourinho got? I've heard rumours that it could cost as much as £30 million to get rid of him, and when you weigh it up as in that's a top quality player to buy in the transfer window, do you get rid of probably the best manager of the last 10 years or buy a top quality player in the transfer window? That's a no-brainer, but it is a results-based business, and Mourinho's not getting that. There's reports that he's lost some of the dressing room, reports coming out that one of the players would rather lose than win for Mourinho. I'm not sure I entirely believe that. Terry's come out and said they're all 100% behind the manager, but the way they're playing is certainly not as though we're used to Mourinho sides playing. We're used to their players absolutely loving him, but that hasn't been the case. Already lost 6 league games from 11 matches this season. He's never lost 7 league games in the season before in his entire managerial career, which you'd have to say that's going to happen this season now, the way they're going. We keep backing them to turn this thing around, but it's not happening at the moment. They're not performing well enough to do it. They're not getting the results. And against Liverpool, the way they just sat back after taking the early lead, that wouldn't have happened last season. They would have gone on to win that match probably 2-0 as they did so often last season. It's just so many things that need to be put right for Chelsea at the moment.
If they can, get a win, a big win over Dynamo Kiev, and then an impressive performance here against Stoke, it put them in better stead going into the international break, and then they come back after that, and they've got there's a lot of fixtures in November and December altogether, and if they can put together some sort of run, that's really what they need to have any chance of maybe even getting into the top 4 the way they're going. They're 15th in the table now, 14 behind Man City and Arsenal at the top, and 10 adrift to the top 4. It's the worst Premier League title defence ever. It's now worse than Blackburn's in 95-96 after they won the title in 95. So really, really poor. Like you said, it's historically bad here. Mourinho's never done this badly, and if he does lose this one, it'd be the worst league performance ever in a season, the worst Premier League title defence ever. Really, really poor defensively. More goals conceded last week, 3 at home against Liverpool. It's 22 and 11 now they've conceded. That's obviously 2 a game, and only Norwich, Bournemouth, and Sunderland, who are below them in the table, have let in more. So poor. And like you said about Terry and Cahill, they're just a bit slow off the pace. Only Sunderland have allowed more shots on target than them, and when you allow more shots on target, you'll get those deflections, and people might say, it's bad luck that those deflections are going into the goal. But if you were getting to the ball quicker and not letting those shots get away, then that would stop that, wouldn't it? So it's poor there. Away from home, they've only won 2 of their last 10 in all competitions. They're not getting results away. They're losing games at home as well this season. Just everything has been, yeah, like I said, really poor for them. And this is another tough game for them.
I think it took them 28 games last season in the league to concede as many goals as they have this time around, and in all competitions they've conceded 24. At the same stage last season it was 12, so twice as many there. So it has been really disappointing. You mentioned shots on target there. I think last weekend that would have been a problem for Stoke as well. Drew 0-0 in the end against Newcastle, but they're indebted to Jack Butler, man of the match performance, not for the first time this season. He's had a fantastic season, but the concern for Mark Hughes will be that he's too busy at the moment. He's made more saves than any other keeper in the Premier League. I think he's got a really bright future. I think if Joe Hart was 4 or 5 years older, then Butland would be having a good 10-15 year spell in the England first team, the way he's playing at the moment. I'm quite surprised it's taken this long for him to get a run in the first team in the Premier League. Obviously Begovic was there before for Stoke, but Butland is really proving himself at the moment. He's one of the best shot stoppers in the league, I think, at the moment. The way he's performing, that performance against Newcastle to keep them at bay. Stoke really had no right to get anything out of that game, but it was just purely down to Butland. Got helped by the woodwork with the Mitrovic header on one occasion as well, but purely down to the woodwork. The problem would be at the other end, they haven't scored in the last 2 games against Watford and Newcastle. You'd probably expect them to get a goal against as well, and that was after 4 straight wins. They've tailed off a bit after a really good run of form, but lowest scorers with 9 and 11 in the league as well. So the problems are coming at the business end of the field, but in terms of in goal, Butland for me has been the standout player so far this season.
He really has, and I think certainly Stokes' defence will be helped by the fact that Ryan Shawcross is back. That was his first league game against Newcastle last week. Obviously helped them to a clean sheet there. Like I say, Butland was probably the main reason for the clean sheet, but certainly having Shawcross back is a big boost to them, because he came through all 90 minutes there at St James's Park, looked fairly comfortable, and with Muniesa, he's definitely out. Jeff Cameron's a doubt for this one as well. Having Shawcross back is a big boost to them, and I think with Shawcross there, Stoke maybe can try and target improving their home form, because the last, say, 4 or 5 years in the Premier League, we always associate Stoke with a good, strong Premier League record at the Britannia Stadium, but this season they've only won 1 of their 5 games at home, and that was against Bournemouth, who we know aren't the best team in the league by any stretch of the imagination. So they certainly need to improve that. They've not scored in 3 games at home, and certainly you look at their next home games coming up sort of towards the end of the year, there's some really tough ones coming up. Chelsea here, who obviously isn't as tough as it would be, say, last season, but it is still a difficult game, and then they've got Man City and Man United. That's 3 of the next 4 home games, so some really tough matches coming up at home, and if they can get just maybe a win or 2 in those ones, then they'll hopefully, they will have easier home games in the second half of the season. So, yeah, but where they're sitting at the moment, Stoke 14th against Chelsea 15th here. It's quite a big game in the bottom half.
These two played each other as recently as last week in the League Cup. Stoke won on penalties on that occasion. Which way do you see this one going?
I think obviously that game finished as a draw before the penalty shootout, and I think I'm going to go for another draw here. The way Chelsea are going, unless they get a big win in midweek and confidence is really high, they might be able to get something. But the way they're going, I can't see them beating Stoke here. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, I think midweek result might have a bearing on the match. If they get a big victory against Kiev, then might change my prediction, but I'm actually going to go for Stoke in this one. I think I've done back in Chelsea this season. I've backed them most weeks to turn things around, but it doesn't look like happening, so I'm going to go for a 1-0 Stoke victory. So none of us see many goals in this one, but we're going for 1 Stoke victory and a draw. Thanks for joining us.